begins in this week's portion, and our father Abraham is sitting at the entrance of the tent. The Torah tells us it's hot, it's in the heat of the day. The great commentary Rashi explains what was going on. It was the third day after Abraham's circumcision, and he was in tremendous pain. And God made the day so very hot so that Abraham should not be troubled with guests coming into the house. Of course, our father Abraham was so yearning to be able to perform the mitzvah of bringing guests into his house and generating kindness and love. And that's why he was standing at the entrance, or sitting at the entrance of the tent. And God saw Abraham's desire, so therefore he sent these three angels in the form of men for Abraham to bring into his house and perform the mitzvah of kindness and compassion. Rabbi Nissen Malpert asked the question, if God wanted Abraham to perform the mitzvah of kindness and compassion, yes, it was a day, it was blazing hot, but why did God send three angels? Why couldn't God orchestrate, God who runs the world, orchestrate that three men, through actual human beings, would be there for Abraham to run to and greet and bring into his house? Why angels? Rabbi Alpert points out that perhaps the Torah is teaching us a phenomenal lesson about mitzvos, about kindness, about giving, about the things that we do. We think that our act of kindness is to, of course, it's to benefit the next person, but that's the main purpose. The main purpose, what is accomplished when we help somebody, is what we give to them, what we gave to them, what we help them with. The Talmud tells us that the giver receives more benefit, it's better. In other words, on a scale of 1 to 10, say, if you can measure 1 to 10, who benefits more, the giver or the recipient? And the Talmud tells us it is the recipient. The Talmud tells us of an episode of Rufus the Roman who confronted Rabbi Akiva, and he said to him, well, if your God is so compassionate and he could feed everybody, why doesn't he feed the poor? And Rabbi Akiva answered, to give people the opportunity to give and to bring them benefit. What a beautiful message. Of course, picture, you have somebody, it's a hot day, and you give them a cold drink. Somebody's hungry, you give them a meal. Oh, beautiful accomplishment. You could measure that accomplishment. The Torah is telling us by God's choosing to send angels to focus on the giver and to focus on the act itself. And if we think that the act is measured by the benefit to the recipient, that's only one small part of it. A much greater part of it is the impact, the spiritual impact on the neshama, on the soul of the giver. This is something that we can't see. It's something that we don't necessarily feel. But the Torah is telling us it's there. So, when we do help somebody, and we see the tremendous benefit, and we have nachas and joy at the experience of watching the pleasure that that person receives, let that be an eye-opener to us to know that simultaneously what is happening is the elevation of our neshama, of our souls, and that we are becoming changed and we are becoming elevated. And it's so important to think about this with every kind deed and every mitzvah that we perform. Every time we follow the directives of Hashem, we are elevating our neshama. We don't see it, we may not feel it, but it is there. May Hashem bless us to keep doing mitzvahs and to keep realizing and strengthening ourselves and knowing that every single mitzvah that we do, and the more heartfelt it is, the more, of course, benefit to the recipient, but the more spiritual elevation within us. May Hashem bless us to go from strength to strength. Have a beautiful Shabbos.